Awesome. Hi guys, my name is Dr. Sharnael Wolverton. Super excited to have Charlie Ward on here with us today. And we were just doing a little pre-talk about where we're from, what we're doing. And first of all, just tell us a little bit about yourself before we jump right in, because I know you have multiple interviews today, and so do I, and I want to get to the meat, good stuff. So tell us a little bit for the people who don't know anything about you. I would love for them to hear about your background.
Okay, very simply, I was born and brought up in a religious cult. I'm called Plymouth Brethren, Exclusive Brethren, whatever you want to call it. Born into it, knew no different. Had an arranged marriage when I was 18 years old and had 3 children by the age of 23. And when I was 23 and had 3 children, I started to ask questions, mainly because my mother was an alcoholic, as to certain issues. There were certain things that didn't sit right with me. And my mother being an alcoholic was one of them. And the fact that I was encouraged to drink whiskey from the age of 12 years old was another. I didn't
Wow.
quite understand it, but there was, this is the way it was set up. And I decided at 23 years old, enough was enough, and I was going to walk away. And when I walked away, I had to leave my wife and children behind, and they didn't join me until 5 years later. But when I came out, it took me at least 10 years to find my feet, to find out what the truth was, because through my entire life, I hadn't been told the truth. And when I came outside and found out that I hadn't been told the truth, I was in a very dark place for a number of years.
Yeah, I get it.
Because when your parents have lied to you about so many issues, it becomes pretty heavy shit, you start to question everything in life. So when coming into this, it was like, I'm built for this, I've been lied to all my life, and I've had to find out the truth myself without any help from anybody else. And that doesn't involve sitting on my backside and watching the television. That means going out to countries, going out around the world. Now, you're very blessed as well, Dr. Sharnael, because you traveled around the world too, to many countries. And when you travel to countries, you can get first-hand view.
Yes.
And
Yeah, I was actually even in East Berlin before the wall came down and saw all the when I was there, and it was terrible. And I was there after, and it was still terrible. They hadn't done too much to clean up after all the stuff that happened. But yeah, I've been to Oman and Dubai and, all 44 different countries at this point. And I get what you're saying. We talked off camera about some of the things about just trying to explain things to people that and or you have firsthand experience, no matter what Facebook wants to fact check my experience. When you talk about it, it seems like there's some people who are okay, and then other people who are like, well, how come that's not on the news? Or why would the government let that happen? Or why would a doctor be okay with that? It's like, I trust the doctors, I trust the government, and I love the government, and I appreciate Trump. But tell me a little bit about your thoughts on that.
well, just winding back to what you said, with people saying that if they don't see it on the television, my grandson is in Florida, and we come over to see him, and we often take him to Disney, which he loves there, and so does my son. They both love going to Disney. But as everybody knows, in Disney, you spend so much time in the queues, and you'll end up talking to people. And I talked to so many people in the queue, just being friendly. And I was talking to one guy, and this is not just once, this has happened many times, where we were talking about the Federal Reserve, and they will not accept the fact that the Federal Reserve was a private company. They said, no, it's owned by the American government. I said, no, it's not. It's a private company. It's a private corporation. No, and they would tell me I was stupid to my face. And I said, look, you need to do some research. Oh, I don't need to do research. I know because I watch the television. And that really answered my own question, that they only believe what you just said just now about what's on the television. Now, also winding back a little bit, I was told 6 years ago that this was going to happen this year, but not this year. They said it was going to happen. They didn't say when. 2 years ago, they said we're nearly there now because we've got Trump in power. 6 years ago, they wanted to get Trump into power, and they told me they would. 2 years ago, they told me they'd got him in power, and things were on the move. And then in December last year, December last year, my insider, who's basically a senior person in the US government that I work with, he's a diplomat. And he's one of many that I deal with, diplomats, bureaucrats.
And let me just explain to the people who don't understand what you do for a living and have done for a living for 20, 30 years now. because I know that from your just watching you and following you for a while. This man has got financial history of moving money. It's not just like he's just talking and he met a guy at Disney and they told him something. I mean, he works it. This is his experience and decades long of experience of meeting with people, trusting people, seeing things over and over again. He's not just talking about some guy he met in Disneyland and they told him something and it was a rumor. He literally lives it. So when he says they told him, he's talking about clients and or financial gurus and or people who are moving money all over the planet that he works with on a regular that are giving him this insight. Just had to put that in there because some of my people aren't familiar with that part of what you do.
Sure, and it's an important point there as well that if I move, as an example, $1 billion out of Africa into Dubai, you think, well, I don't need to let America know. But of course you do. You have to let America know because it's a US dollar. It belongs to America. So I have to get consent from the Federal Reserve, or in the old days, from the Federal Reserve. Nowadays, you have to get consent from the Treasury because they're the people who make the decisions. And it's a lot more difficult now than it was then. Before Trump came along, you just needed proof of funds. Now with Trump in power, you need proof of funds, history of funds, and source of funds. So he needs to know exactly where it's come from. But that's the first time in history that they've clamped down on the details of where's this money coming from. Beforehand, it didn't bother them where it's come from or where it's going to. So to move money from any country in the world to another country, that's what I do. But to get consent, you get consent of the government that's sending it, the government that's receiving it, and the country from which it comes. And because most of the time we're moving US dollars, you have to contact America and get consent. So that's when you meet people in the same business. And it's not that I sit down and question them. We're just sitting having lunch and on a private jet or what have you, having a natter. And you talk to these people and you pick up nuggets of information that build up. Every single piece of information is like a piece of a puzzle.
Yeah.
But this puzzle is massive. I mean, it's a 10,000 piece puzzle. And that might just be one little piece that makes that picture look that much brighter.
Yep. And so these people have been telling you for quite a while. I know at one point, my intel had talked about it being discussed in or announced 9/11. Of course,
Yep.
that didn't happen. And there's been multiple times where it's, supposedly discussed. We know that everything got moved in March with the feds. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, there was a lot going on. You have to understand that the move from the old SWIFT system, the old fiat currency system, which is controlled by the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, etc., by the deep state, the cabal. It's controlled by them. Trump's come into power to drain the swamp. That means get rid of these people. Now, these people have controlled the world since time began.
Yeah.
Now, you think about the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, whatever, but right at the top of the tree, you're talking about the families, the Venetian families. That's the top of the tree. And then that feeds down into the others. And that's why Donald Trump removed them first. He took the head off the beast, as he referred to. So he removed those out of the way. And before that, he then went into arresting other people that were involved in the deep state and the cabals. He had to get rid of the lawyers, the barristers, the judges that are corrupt. Otherwise, he knew darn well the minute they got arrested, they'd be released because the people behind the scenes are corrupt. So it's been a massive job. I mean, a huge job. And to have achieved what he has done in the last 4 to 5 months is unbelievable. But the outside world hasn't got a clue what's going on because they're totally focused on a virus. It's nothing more than the common cold.
Yeah, that and anything else that's going on with Dews and Harp and, fires and what we're on our 3rd or 4th hurricane. And,
yep.
People are just spinning and then glued to CNN/CIA news, which is all going in through beta waves to keep everyone in fight or flight. And if you're that's the easiest way to program anybody.
Of course it is.
Yep. So anyway, go ahead.
But we're in the biggest fight of our lives. This is the biggest show on earth right now. I mean, we've never seen a show like this. This is the great awakening, the revelation. the time for atonement. I mean, we're living in an amazing time right now. I mean, I've never been so happy and peaceful in my life ever. Watching what's happening. Yes, I do know things that I can't discuss, but the basics are out there, and you just don't. You just need to open your eyes, turn off your television, and open your eyes. And I was talking earlier to Gareth Ike, who's David Icke's son, a really lovely gentleman. I mean, a real gentleman. And we were talking about going from a third dimension to a fifth dimension and above. And my analogy is fairly simple. If you're stood in the middle of a forest, trying to see the sky through the trees, you get a sort of different view. If you step outside of the forest, that's like coming from 3D into 5D. So you get a different dimension. You see the forest and you see the sky. If you've got a drone, you can then lift up through the different dimensions so you can see different aspects of the forest and the sky and everything around. And that's what we need to do. Move out of the forest, settle, have a look around what's going on, turn the television off because the television's all inside the forest. We need to get out of there, shut that off, look at it from the outside and see what's happening around. Then we'll get clarity, then we'll get peace. Because when you get truth, you get clarity. When you get clarity, you get peace.
That is such a brilliant analogy. I like that so much. Thank you for sharing that. And wow, got to talk to the Ike man. That's kind of cool. You know, I don't know if you watched the debate, you know, if you're saying that you don't watch TV, but I was personally glued to the debate. Did you get a chance to watch it? And what did you think if you did?
I didn't watch it live. I watched it on YouTube, the different clips, and I was told before it even started it was completely staged. Then when I watched it, I just thought, well, you know, how does anyone even believe this?
Yeah, and then of course you heard the news last night about you know, Trump and his wife having COVID.
I laughed my head off when I heard that.
Yeah.
Again, you couldn't make it up. You know, the guy's on hydroxychloroquine all the time. But this is the perfect storm. You know, he suddenly got COVID-19. And you'll find out that suddenly, either bicarbonate of soda or hydroxychloroquine will be administered to both of them, and it will disappear in 3 days. They'll be back to normal. So that he'll blow the vaccine theory out of the water.
That'd be interesting too. I mean, and you know, when I saw it, I'm not going to say I laughed, because of all of the information about 10.2 and 10.3 that have been out as far as lockdowns, and you know, with Q and the Mickey Mouse watch setting up at right 10 on one hand and right out almost at the 2, or 2 on one hand and right at the 10. Of course, that was in 2017 when those drops were going out, and yet, you know, here we are. This could be the thing, and I'm kind of on the fence with all of it. I'm just watching. For me, if it's real and this is true, then oh my God, the best thing ever. And even with JFK and all the other things that we can go into, and it also is just like, wow. If he did really get COVID, which anyone would who had a vaccination, they're going to be tested positive automatically. But if he uses whatever he's using and then is able to announce that this is what I did, now I'm clear, blah, 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 then everyone would see firsthand from him. Now, if it's not on the news again, I don't know, because I was talking about COVID in March, February last year and explaining all this stuff. Of course, I was censored, taken off Facebook. You've had your experience with that too. And then you got some people who just don't believe anything that you're saying, because why wouldn't that be on the news? Why wouldn't that be on the news? And then, of course, any doctor that got up even on YouTube or whatever, they censored them and they just take them off. And it's like, at what point do you think that this is all going to happen where the news has consequences, that the CIA news Mockingbird situation actually has consequences for, this is criminal what they're doing, this censorship and you know, this narrative that they have out there. What's going to happen with that?
I was told that they were going to be the last ones to be taken down. And I find it exciting, because I think, You know, the biggest problem is we're so used to everything happening so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
News is 24 hours a day. We get emails response immediately, WhatsApp, um, WeChat, all these different messenger mediums of Signal, Telegram, whatever, instant messaging. So we got instant answers. The Second World War took 5.5 years.
Mm.
This is a bigger job, and it's nearly done in 5 months. And we're moaning like babies, you know. Our children, Mummy, are we there yet? Daddy, are we there yet? We're like that. We're like little children. Are we there yet? And to take down the deep state and the cabal is a massive operation. And we're in the Third World War, and we're not being asked to fight. We're being asked to sit at home.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now's
And
the time to do some research rather than sitting in front of a telly.
yeah, and the thing about the Second World War ending in 5.5 years, that could be disputed too with paperclip and not having any trials and all that. There's so many people who actually say we're still in the war. We just didn't know it until recently. And some people still don't know it, you know?
No.
So at what point, I really do hope that, you know, with the speculation of him, quote, stepping down, is that going to have to be public, or is this the step down? Or is there going to have to be a step down or lockdowns? I know you talked a little bit, I've heard you talk about lockdowns that happened overseas that you foresaw, and you were correct. What about for the United States? What are you seeing there?
Look, I see there will be lockdowns in different places at the right times. The one thing I don't know at all is timing. I don't know when they'll happen. But the whole transition, this whole smokescreen is for the global financial reset. From the changeover from the SWIFT system to the quantum financial system and the revaluation. That's what the whole smokescreen is about. So whatever it takes to do that will be done. The virus, the vaccine, the 5G, the riots, the alien invasion is all part of the show. It's the greatest show on earth. It's got no relevance at all, but it's good fun to watch. I mean, this whole thing was to collapse the world's economy. That's what it's all about. And right now we're seeing they're really screwing the economy in Europe because Deutsche Bank is about to go bankrupt. It's been on its knees for years. But unbeknown to the rest of the world, discreetly, the Chinese elders decided to help them out under Trump's guidance a few years ago, just for the record.
Wow.
And the Chinese now have control of Deutsche Bank. Because up until now, the German government, would not allow Deutsche Bank to go out of business. It was an ego thing.
Wow.
Whereas the Chinese have cleared their debts years ago to help them on their way, Trump will instruct the Chinese when to pull the plug, and it will be timed to absolute perfection to collapse them. And we just had a hint of it yesterday because they're being investigated to a $2 trillion fraud to do with child trafficking, drugs, and money laundering. That's just become public knowledge, and the central office has actually been cancelling trades. Now, when a major AAA bank has trades cancelled, this came out of the London Stock Exchange, then alarm bells ring with huge sounds. But I noticed the mainstream media, nothing, absolutely nothing. There's sheer panic at the moment. They're after you and me and everybody else, trying to shut us up, big style, because we know what's going on. We know the truth about what's going on, and they're desperate for the truth not to come out. But there's some big things happening behind the scenes, and it's a bit like, you know, the New Year coming in, New Year's celebrations or bonfire night or whatever. It's an amazing time, and we're moving into amazing times. But it's very much like going from Key Largo to Key West. We know the destination.
Yeah.
We know where we left from, but there's a hurricane coming in. But we're going to get there.
Yes. Talking about JFK.
Yeah.
Subject. So there's speculation that he'll come out and that he's alive. I'm talking about John Jr.
Yeah.
Some people even say Senior is alive, which he would be 103 years old right now, and it is going to be 10/3 tomorrow. But they're talking about him coming out in Dallas, not senior, but junior, I believe, and being at the rally, and that this would be, you know, honest, it would be amazing. I'm not saying that's going to happen. You know, if he did come out, that'll be the 17th, which would be the end of the quarantine period for Trump, because he would have to go.
Let me see if I can find the picture. I'll send it to you on WhatsApp, and then you can tell me if he's alive or not. Because the picture that was sent to me, I was like, okay.
Well, I've even heard that Patrick is alive, and what's the daughter. I've had different people tell me and say that she's on Facebook and different things too. And given the analogy of Moses, of how Senior basically gave the kids away to be raised in other places to come back and rule later, and John knew, I guess, that he would probably be assassinated, and also, I mean, look at his family. How many people have been assassinated? And if,
you couldn't make that up.
yeah, so if he is just getting revenge, which he's promised to get revenge for his father, then this would be the biggest. I mean, ta-da! This would be huge if this is true. I mean, I would love for this to be true. I am not saying that I know that it's true or believe that it's true. I wish to God, and I talked to Robert Steele yesterday, and he has a lot of intel, and he says that with all of what he's looked at, even on an evidence base, because everything he does is evidence based, he said he's about 80% sure that this would happen. And so I'd love to have your feedback on that.
Yeah, from there it is. I send it to you. There's a picture here that was sent to me, which looks very, very much like him.
You sent it via, oh, here it is. Oh, wow. Wait a minute. Oh, yes. Wow.
Somebody sent me that, and I was like, yeah.
Holy cow.
And there's a number of things that you just go, is it, isn't it? Look, I've tried as much as I can to stick
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah. I try and stick to the truth, but when people send pictures like that.
That is crazy. So he would be 102. I mean, 103. Tomorrow would be 10-3. You know, if this whole thing, and you know what else I found out? I don't know if you know this, but Ivanka's daughter is named after Rose, middle name of JFK's mom, and then daughter, what is it, Antebellum or Ariel or something?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah,
no, that's correct. I know that to be correct.
So
they were friends.
Oh yeah, they're all buddies, and you know, Trump was big time friends with John, or maybe still is. I mean, Charlie Freak goes into about how Diana's alive and Michael Jackson's alive, and you know, all of those things. And I get really excited. I have to be honest, it's like, that would be so cool if this is like all a setup and someone actually waited that long and thought this whole thing out to really do something about it and stay undercover all this time. That and then there's a part of some of the stuff that I hear, whether it's out there or Charlie Freak or whoever, it's like, it almost seems too good to be true. And almost like, it's like, okay, well, if this is in the bag, I just don't want people to sit back and go, well, I don't have to do anything then because it's all done for me and it's all taken care of. Like, I think it's still important to have action and to actually go out and vote, be a digital warrior, talk about what you know is true, not try to spin anything or make things up, or maybe this, you know, but when you do know something's going on, at least start those conversations. And you had mentioned how when you first started getting the truth, how you kind of went to a dark space. I get it. I think there's a lot of people who are there now.
Yeah.
I know about 3 or 4 years ago when I started looking into some things, because I was given I was told that I had some health issues, that I wouldn't be here anymore. So I was really looking at everything I ever believed, and that word believe means to be alive in. I was looking at everything, whether it was government, church, you know, relationship. I was looking at everything to the nth degree, going, is this true? Is this true? Let me go back, you know, the Bible, all of it. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, the lies that have been taught through the school system, the churches, the government, the TV, the programming. And I was depressed. I was like, what's true?
Yeah.
What is true? Like, it's so scary. And I think there's so many people there that are there right now. And thank God I had a whole group of people that we kind of went through that together. And thank God for people like you who have known about this for a long time, that you can be here to kind of back up some of this stuff and also go, you'll make it, you won't die. It's scary and it's dark, but it's good.
Yeah. And that's the way I analyze it. You know, we all know the way from Key Largo to Key West. It's just one road. But we also know it's incredibly difficult to get there in a hurricane. And that's what we're doing right now. We're going through a tornado, a hurricane, whatever you want to call it. We know where we're going, and I'm very happy with the destination. It's just the journey is going to be chaotic. And that's what we're seeing right now, and we're seeing it unfold. And you have to remember that the deep state and the cabal are not going to give up easy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've had control since time began almost. And this is being taken away from them. And they're fighting like crazy. And because of the fact that they know that they already know. I was told 3-4 months ago they were past the critical point.
For timeline wars, you're talking about?
For the danger for Trump not being in total control of this.
Oh wow!
I was told 4 months ago that he was safe now.
Wow.
We were past the critical point. So the rest of it has just been a show. So I've just been sat back watching it. That's why I'm completely relaxed, and I'm really enjoying it. But I'm trying to work out what's happening because they haven't told me what's happening. I have to sit like everybody else and try and work it out. But I know what the destination is. But he's also the reason I love him. He's a naughty boy. Because you know that all the people he's arrested, he's taken control of their accounts, their social media accounts, and some of the stuff he's putting out is naughty. Not him personally, but it's like the team behind him. The team behind him are just doing some very naughty things, which are very, very funny for people who know, because they've obviously got hold of their Instagram and their Facebook accounts, and they're managing them and putting out silly stuff, which I find very, very funny, because I know what's going on, and I know which accounts are being managed. And there was even a letter the other day that came out that Trump had signed that was obviously written by one of his people. The line of words down the side was a very naughty saying that somebody had picked up on. Again, I'll send it to you. But these sort of things behind the scenes, you see what's going on and you just go, you couldn't make it up. Because the boys behind the scenes, they're so in control of what's happening. Oh, here we go. It's very naughty, but it's very funny. But this gives you an idea of the sense of humor of the people behind the scenes.
Wow.
And that's an official letter.
Oh my God. Okay.
So when you know what you're looking for, normal people wouldn't see that.
No. Everything is code. I know everything is calculated that he's saying, and people aren't necessarily pick up whatever. And I mean, I had someone question me yesterday going, well, if med beds are real and that he's actually had, you know, Tesla's, you know, his uncle's patents that he's been holding out and trying to declassify from Tesla, then where's the proof? Where's the proof? Where's the proof? And can you document that? And it's just like, oh my gosh, you know, he has said it live on TV how many times about free energy, about generators, about having different therapies. Even when he's talking about the vaccinations, he says it won't be forced and you won't have to get it, and they're putting all this money into other therapies. Well, what do you think other therapies is? I mean, anyway, but
this is where you need to tell people. This is like when you're in the forest and saying, well, I can't see the sky, I can't see the sky, I can't see the sky. Well, step outside of the forest, step out of your 3D world and get into a 5D world. Get outside of the forest, then you will see. Because if I tell you, you won't believe me. So what you need to do is step outside of the box and see for yourself. You will not see it from inside the box. And that's the only way to get through to them, because they can't see it when they're inside the box. They have to get themselves outside of the box and then look up, and then once they get outside, then they'll start to lift and start to see things so clearly. But for as long as they're in the box, no, you've got to show me proof. No, I don't believe this, I don't believe that. Because they can't see anything because they're stuck inside the box.
Well, I have like 2 or 3 questions, and then I know you got to get. But one lady was talking about just the basics of NESARA, GESARA, the differences, and what this reset actually means as far as mortgages being paid off and or debt relief. I mean, her specific question was going into like, what is it basically? Because she's heard, and for those of you who don't know, I'd love to hear your definition. But then also, she was specifically asking, so is this the time to buy a house, or is this a wait and buy the house later, or, you know, like what's the timing of that?
First of all, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not the Messiah. I am Charlie. I've done my research on NESARA and GESARA, and it's all part of this finance. If we start at the foundations of it, we move away from maritime law to constitutional or common law. And in very simple layman's terms, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of laws that are made in our countries without our say-so, that are completely and utterly controlling about unnecessarily. We'll get back to basically 6 laws. I don't hurt you, you don't hurt me. I don't steal from you, you don't steal from me. I don't kill you, you don't kill me. They're the basic fundamentals. That's it. And then so that's the foundations of where we're going to start. From a point of view of taxation, all taxation will disappear apart from one basic tax, which is a purchase tax on non-essential new items, somewhere between 13 and 17%. And I'm sure they know the figures, but I don't. And that will provide enough income into the system when you take all the wastage out.
Mm-hmm. Definitely a lot of that going on.
Yeah. When people say, well, you can't cover all my medical health and all that. Oh, yes, I can. Because then we get into the med beds,
mm-hmm.
which have been blocked by Bill Gates, the WHO, and the CDC, because they don't make any money out of them. That's why they don't want them out there. So once we get the foundations of that set right, first of all, when you take away the Federal Reserve and the corrupt financial system, most people in America have not got a clue. The US dollar that you've got in your wallet is worth absolutely nothing. It's not backed by gold. It's just printed out of a machine. I'm just gutted I didn't think of it first. Because they just print money and they sell it to governments. It's the biggest scam ever. Forget Ponzi. Forget about Clarence Madoff, his Ponzi scheme. He's a schoolboy compared to these lot. I mean, he's just like a kid compared. So they print money. It's evil. It's corrupt. They print the money on a machine. They give it to you so you can buy a house, but they want it back not just with interest. They want it back with tax as well. They tax you on every single thing. It's corrupt. It's evil. It's wrong. So Trump and his team, the alliance, not the New World Alliance, the alliance behind Trump, want to get rid of the deep state and the cabal and this. And that would then mean the forgiveness of all debt, all bank debt, not personal debt between 2 people, bank debt.
Which we are in a Jubilee year, by the way. And I'm sure you know that. But
that's rather convenient. And we're also in the 2020 year, which is clear vision as to what's going on. So we get clarity. We know, between Charlie Freak and myself, we know of over 1 million people in America that have already had their mortgages or loans or whatever already cleared.
Wow.
We know of over 1,000 in the United Kingdom, but we always knew that the UK and Europe would be second or third in line because it's America first. We understand that. I have no problem with that. There's no rhyme or reason to the order yet, none at all. It's almost like it's been thrown out as a bit of a tester to start with. Nobody quite knows. And it's all very secretive at the moment. You just suddenly go to pay your mortgage and it's been paid. You don't know why. And there's no logic, no rhyme or reason that the building societies, the bank, haven't got a clue why it's gone to zero. There's nothing on their system. It's just zero. There's no reason for it. And they try and research it. Nobody knows anything about it.
Wow.
So that's the transition. Look, I wanted this to come in, GESARA and NESARA, I wanted it to come in all bells and whistles, and Trump's doing it far more subtle. It's coming in gently. And I wanted the big show, and it's not. It's just doing bit by bit, bit by bit. And of course, it says in there about a period of darkness. Well, that's the transition period. There may be a period of darkness. Who knows? But I do know from people behind the scenes what they don't want to do is spook the world. That's not
Wow.
what they want to do. They want to keep it as seamless as possible. Whereas I wanted it all singing, all dancing. That was just Charlie. That was just selfishness, because I knew what we were going to go to, and I wanted a big show. But he's doing it far more gently, far more discreetly than I'd ever imagined. And there's a lot to it. The forgiveness of debt is an amazing thing. But then what do you do with your money when you've got more money? There's not just the forgiveness of debt. You'll be forgiven for your taxes that you paid in your life, and you'll get that reimbursed to you. And there's an awful lot of other things that you'll get back, and you'll be compensated. We'll be in a position of wealth, but the question is what we do with that money. And that's where it'll test each and every one of us as to humanity. And I was pointing out today that the middle-class white countries, America, England, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, these middle-class places have, we've lost our moral compasses. We've been putting our old people into old people's home because they're a burden. This doesn't happen in Pakistan, in India, in Bangladesh, in Sri Lanka, in the Far East. It's not in their DNA. Suddenly old people have become a burden. We need to recalibrate our moral compass and realize these are the people that gave us our lives.
Yeah.
They gave their lives for us, and then as a gratitude, we stick them in an old people's home. That's just not right. So humanitarian stuff starts at home. And then we can look at, I'm working with Michael Tellinger in South Africa with the One Small Town, which is a brilliant, we've managed to secure the funding for that, which we're going through the process right now to start that, so that we can have small towns of 10,000 homes, completely clean water and free electric, free water, free electric, and build on that, and to move into this world. Well, we'll work very, very closely with the team right now to make sure that we do things correctly, because we're living in a world that is driven by greedy, horrible, dirty people that just take. And it will take a challenge. With the One Small Town, you can't just give people free water and free electric, and their brain can't comprehend it. So we've worked into it. They have to give 3 hours a week of work to the community to justify it. And the best part is when you go on holiday, you've got to give 3 hours to the place you go on holiday.
Oh, wow.
So that makes you integrate with people. It makes you get to know the locals. And I just think that's absolutely beautiful. You can go anywhere in the world on holiday, but you've got to put into their community to be able to benefit from their free electric and free water. And I just love that. I think that's we're going to move into a beautiful world. It is a great awakening. And for those that are awake, they can see it very, very clearly. From those that are on certain dimensions, that they've got absolute clarity of what's happening. For those that are third dimensional, that are still down, stuck in the woods, they don't know what the hell's going on. And they want proof. You won't get proof until you step out of the forest.
Yeah, I just wish that they would announce this before the election, because talk about a landslide if Trump was just like, hey, guess what? All your debts are forgiven. Like, who wouldn't vote for that guy, right? And I mean, even the biggest Trump haters, I don't see how they can find a problem with all of a sudden being like, oh, free electricity, med beds, and debt forgiveness. No, I don't want to.
CNN would still have a problem.
True.
So yeah, it's one thing I do know is the team behind him are managing this perfectly. They are so happy with the way things are going. They've got everything planned out beautifully, and it's working very, very well. Hang on, I'll put that onto mute because.
So one last question. Talk to me about Gitmo, clones, body doubles. Do you know anything? I know you talked to Charlie Freak and he's got a lot of stuff on that, but I mean like evidence of people you've talked to and or hunches, I guess, or what do you think about any of that stuff?
Well, first of all, of the major names that have been arrested, let's get one thing very, very clear about truth. Donald Trump changed the law in America so that if you've been involved in paedophilia or child trafficking, the automatic sentence was death. He changed the law on that right at the start of his term. So people can check that out as a fact. The people that have been arrested for child trafficking, paedophilia, have already gone to Gitmo. Now, I don't know what's happened to them because I don't have that information. But I do know that people that cooperate with Trump will be spared their life as long as they can help him to get everybody out of this awful, awful world that they live in. When it comes to body doubles, he's got an agreement in place that he's allowing, if people are cooperating, he's allowing them from a public eye to be seen as still in service, if you like. If you're not cooperating, then it'll become very public as to what you've done. So he's got them over a barrel. He's dealing with it in a business-like way rather than a political way. You help me and I'll help you. And then they'll suddenly disappear from life, but they'll still have their life. They won't have been killed. There are people that have already left us. And there are people out there that have got body doubles out there. And you don't need to be a rocket scientist to work out who these body doubles are. Because I saw an interview the other day with Hillary Clinton with James Corden. And that was like, do you really think I believe that's Hillary Clinton? Because that body double or clone was made on a Friday night in China. That was a real crap copy.
Oh.
You get 2 for 1 with that one. I mean, it's shocking. And yet the public go, oh, I saw her on the telly. I go, are you serious? Just have a look. And then you have to go through it and say, now look at what she looked like the last time in real life. That looks nothing like her. And the top half of her head is different to the bottom half. It's like, what's going on? And yet people go, oh, I saw her on the telly. And just like, is it CGI? Is it clones? Is it body doubles? I don't know. Whatever it is, it's crap. It's not the real thing.
Yeah, I know that I've seen videos of like even the hologram of Pope fading in and out on the balcony and some of those things. And LSU, local university here, actually did facial recognition technology on the debate and were in question about some of the stuff that they had put out. And I don't have anything 100% on if people are gone or whatever. Yesterday, someone informed me that if you go to ancestry.com, that Bill Gates and Melinda Gates are actually reported as dead. So it's like, okay, I haven't looked it up myself, and I asked, can you please show me where that is? I'd like to see. I'm just very data. I'm a scientist. I'm a doctor, so I like to actually see. In some way, sometimes that can be challenging to get evidence at times when. But then when you start talking to people who are inside the system, whether it's CIA, NSA, FBI, whistleblowers, people like yourself, and they're all not even knowing each other, but saying the same things, then that's whenever I perk up and go, I may not have 100% interest or evidence-based everything, but some of these people have been giving some evidence-based things. And then when you hear it over and over again through different people in different ways and nobody even knew each other, that's, even stuff when I started watching Charlie Freak, I was like, oh, okay, wait. And then, but now it's been like 6 or 7 people who don't even know who that guy is, Jason Q and some others, and they have been coding and decoding for 3-4 years, and you should see the stuff they have, and it's like, oh my gosh, and they don't know each other. So that's whenever I'm awake. And, our court system is set up by testimonies of witnesses, and that seems to be okay. But in this day and age, people don't believe the witnesses anymore. They want the evidence. And I know courts use evidence too, but I'm just saying a lot of the things become from expert experience, people who are testifying on what they've experienced. And for whatever reason, like I keep saying, if it's not on the news, then it's a conspiracy theory and people just kind of whatever. But 2007, I was told to start praying for and looking to see Trump as a president. And to be honest, I had zero knowledge of anything political or Trump himself, but it kept coming back to me. I had several dreams and different things that happened. And then later, Trump came to me in a dream, and it's a little bit long of a thing, but in the end, he looked up and was saying, "Help me make America great again." And he kept saying that over and over and over again. I blogged all about this in 2007 and again in 2015, because I just thought it was so out there. Like I mean, I've had a lot of dreams that have come true and lots of stuff like that, but not about a guy who was on The Apprentice. That just seemed a little bit out there. And so, and I was way younger then, so it wasn't like I was a big political, had any skin in the game for who was doing what. I was just kind of like doing life, and all of a sudden I was presented with this. And it wasn't long after that I actually, because of my postings, was sent an email to be invited to Florida to meet with him and a group of people about some of these things that I had seen. And I was in New Zealand at the time, and in my mind I was like, I'll get back, let's do another time when I get back from New Zealand. And there wasn't, and hasn't been another time since. So one day I do believe I will meet him in real life if I haven't already. I was telling this to Carrie Cassidy the other day, and while we were on the phone, when I was telling her this, she gets an email instantly, and in the email heading it said, "Trump wants to meet with you." And she was like, "Oh my God, you won't believe what just happened as you're talking about this. I just got this heading that says Trump wants to meet with you." So maybe we've met, no time or space, Looking Glass, time travel, Montauk, who knows? But I really think in real life, one day physically, I'll be able to shake his hand. Well, he's a big, tall man, so I'll look him in the eye and shake his hand, and who knows? But anyway, any final thoughts on anything you would like to say? Yeah.
One thing that being a doctor and a scientist, that I think is very valuable for people to understand. You would know from your training that our body is made up of 1 trillion viruses plus.
Yes.
And we can't actually transmit a virus. We can transmit germs.
Nope.
So when I first heard that this virus was out there and it was dangerous, I was like, who came up with that word? And it can only come back to Bill Gates, because he had the virus in the computer that actually caused mayhem. And then he provided the antivirus.
Yep.
So even the terminology, the virus is out there, and you can transmit the virus, and you need to keep 6 feet away, and you need to wear a mask to protect yourself from the virus. You as a doctor and a scientist can vouch that we cannot transmit a virus to another person.
Nope.
We can only transmit germs. So the fact that they can't even get the terminology right suggests that they haven't got a clue what they're talking about.
Yep.
Is that fair?
And it's aggravating to no end. I was a part of a research project in January with 1,114 other doctors or medical people interested in that field. And we were testing beta waves and sleep patterns and all this. It was a contained thing where everyone was eating the same and staying in the same place. And we were put in groups of 30, and we couldn't be in groups of 30 with anyone that we knew. They separated us, so we couldn't compare data or whatever. And so therefore I had like my cousin who was a doctor, and she was in another group, and other people who had nursing backgrounds in different groups. And so even though we were in our 30 and we were still getting and collecting data, once we got back and talking amongst ourselves, we could kind of sometimes find out for other groups, go, what's going on in your group? What'd you get? And a lot of people ended up getting sick when we got back. About a week or two, people started having symptoms and things. I think it was the 5G in California. There's all the supercomputers, especially in Shasta and some of the other stuff that are underground. But a lot of them went and got tested, which I didn't, and I won't. And many of them came back later. We weren't hearing about this or know anything about COVID in January, February, but by the time March had rolled around, people were like, hey, remember when we were really sick for like 2 weeks? Everybody was sick, pneumonia type stuff. Maybe that was actually COVID. And so people went and got tested because they said that, the plasma was so supposedly worked to help people. And 28 out of my 30 in my group had tested positive, and I was one that didn't go test. But you know, I just find it interesting that when everyone started talking about this and going public and explaining, you know, that this could be 5G, or this could be this, or here's some remedies that are natural, or, you know, blah, 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 blah. And or the amount of people who are in clinics who were being forced to document every single thing COVID, whether it was a motorcycle accident, broken ankle, anything, they were losing their license or their job if they weren't lying. And if you go out and say, oh my gosh, they're forcing me to do this, then we were pulled. I was in Facebook jail for 30 days the first time I went out and said anything. And now they fact check everything, and I've been in jail and hit, and I know you've been censored too. So it's aggravating because I didn't sign up to lie. I signed up to help people and to educate people. The word doctor actually means teacher. That's my favorite thing to do, is to teach. And I like to teach the masses in order to wake up and to be responsible with their own body, their own frequency, their own limbic system, their own biofield, because that, as we shift inside, will change the whole collective, and that will shift the entire world and beyond if we decide and choose to do that at will. And so I think we're in a timeline war. I think that we're in a truth war, an information war. And, you know, I'm so happy for the day when people can actually just Google something and get real information, or watch TV and actually hear good news and good reports and positive things, instead of all this beta, you know, fear. It's frustrating, but it's shifting. We're changing. And are you seeing people who maybe didn't believe you start to wake up? Is that going on where you are?
Yeah, certainly. Some of my family are still fast asleep, but they need some beauty sleep anyway. But no, there's a lot of people out there that are waking up slowly. We're getting there. It's not, you know, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's going to take a while, but I've got plenty of time.
Well, I have used the analogy that if you try to wake up a very, very sleepy toddler, you might have an issue. And so that's kind of what you know, some of the trolls on the internet, and just, oh my gosh, it's just like, okay, zombie, and I love you, and no judgment, but also please just go step outside of CNN for a second and look for something. And then if you ask them for any evidence, they don't have anything. So, but thank you so much. How can we reach you? Because I know we've had some movement. I just saw you started a different channel. How can people get plugged into everything so they're aware of any new things that you do?
We're launching our own platform next week, which is drcharlieward.com. We're still on drcharlieward.co.uk, and we're on bitshoot.com/drcharlieward. Yeah, they're doing everything they possibly can to shut us up. That's why we're getting our own platform. But we're still on the second YouTube channel that we've got, which is again under Charlie Ward. We're just trying to get the message out as best we can at the moment. Everything will be moved across onto our own channel, and then what we'll do is we'll do short videos on YouTube telling people, like with this one, we'll say to people, this is on our other channel, because at the moment I was unaware how you know, fact checkers didn't exist before the truth came out. Now the truth has come out, they're desperate to stop it because it's got nothing to do with facts. Because I've been fact checked on two things, and I've supplied them evidence, hard evidence, from the government, from the WHO, and from the CDC, and within 21 seconds of appealing, it was rejected.
Me too. I don't think it's even a person that's actually doing these reviews. I think it's probably a bot.
It is.
Yeah, it's generated, because I've had to appeal. You know, they give you the button you could push to appeal and to show why. And I've done that multiple times, and they're like literally instantly like, nope,
That's
sorry,
right.
we didn't pass. It's like, No. And some of it's like my live patients with my testimonies of real people that I work with, and they're fact checking my experience.
Exactly. Exactly. Well,
Wow.
my favorite fact checker was when they fact checked Donald Trump's tweet.
Or live videos, people
Yeah.
actually saying things
Yeah.
that they shouldn't have said. And it's, you know, whether it's Bill Gates or Biden or whoever, and they're literally just opening their mouth and saying things, and they're like, oh, this isn't completely true, or this doesn't fit our guidelines. It's like,
Yeah.
well, who are your guidelines? What's your community? You know, please, I'd like to know who your community is, because if they don't like the truth, my goodness. But I'm looking for, I hope that what you're saying is true. I really do. I am excited if this is really going to happen. And, you know, I guess we'll just buy some popcorn and, you know, keep our nervous system as calm as possible, get into nature, drink lots of water, make sure we're taking care of ourselves on a physical, natural, spiritual level as much as possible, preparing in whatever way we can to, you know, making sure you have supplies, water, and that kind of thing. Because I know there've been talks of drought and water wars, and, you know, not to panic, not to freak
Sure.
out, but just to, you know, be wise.
Yeah. Look, as long as your moral compass is correct inside you, then you'll be able to make the right judgments. And that's critical right now. And this is where, most people know that there's lies on the media, but they don't know what the truth is. And that you can't actually analyze what the truth is until your moral compass is correct.
Mm-hmm.
When your moral compass is correct, you take the information in, and you have to trust your intuition. And if your moral compass is correct, and I say this many times, if you believe in God, you ask him. If you believe in Allah, you ask him. If you don't believe in anybody, ask your mother or your grandmother. They'll keep you straight.
That's awesome. I love that. Awesome. Well, hopefully we can do this again in a week or so or something, get an update, depending where we are. I would love to have you back. And gosh,
Well, for me, Dr. Sharnael Wolverton, has been an absolute privilege and an honor to share some time with you. It really has.
awesome. Well, thank you for your amazing insight. And we look forward to talking to you real soon. You have a fantastic day, and we'll talk the next time.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Cheers. That's perfect. Brilliant.